That's enough. Alright, today we are going to talk about gear. Yeehaw. I'm going to go through basically what I think is worth spending money on, what's not worth spending money on, and how to use it. Going to go through basically everything that I used this year to take my whitetail successfully on public land, and kind of some different tactics and things that will definitely help you out and make a difference, and what not to do, because I definitely made more than a few mistakes this year. So let's get to it. So when you're going out there, I think it's super important dress in layers, especially in Southeast Texas, simply because it can be super cold in the morning, gets super hot in the middle of the day. Temperatures are always changing. I can't stress layers and layers and layers enough. In fact, the morning that I shot my whitetail deer, I wish I'd have had one more layer on, because it ended up being a lot colder than I thought it was going to be. And about 5 minutes before I heard him, I was thinking about packing it in because I was getting pretty cold. It was already, it was getting around 9, 10 o'clock. I hadn't seen so much as anything from a deer. I'd heard a few and thought I'd heard a few, but hadn't seen anything yet. Thank God I held on. Just remember that. Hold on till 10:30, 11 o'clock, guys, because sometimes, deer could hang up. They could be a little late. And I've definitely shot plenty of deer past noon. I shot my first whitetail was at like 3:15 in the afternoon. I actually scared him. This was in Montana. He jumped up from just a small patch of trees, and it was beautiful. Anyway, we'll get to that another time. So, got this for Christmas. This is a nice little hoodie from it's Magellan. Any kind of hoodie is good to have, and I can't stress that enough for so many reasons. Mosquitoes. You can't go hunting and wear repellent. Don't know if you've ever done that before, but if you're trying to do any kind of scent control, repellent is not your friend. And in Southeast Texas, the mosquitoes will eat you alive. So I believe skin coverage is really good. For the most part, the only place that I get bit is right here, or at least I plan to in the future. I'd like to get me, I don't have one yet, but I definitely will have one before the end of next year, or before next season. I want to get one of those covers that's camouflaged and all that good stuff. Like to find one in orange for rifle, but not necessarily going to need it because I'm probably going to be using my self-climbing tree stand, which that's another episode. I'll get to that. And hopefully I'll be able to be successful during bow season, and we'll get to that as well. But yeah, can't stress layers enough. This is definitely a good one. I can't wait to try it out. All I had before was just, plain clothes, black, blue hoodies, stuff like that, which worked fine, and I'd put it on underneath my camo, but at the same time, I really want to keep everything broken up, because sometimes I've walked up on deer heavily camouflaged and them not even seen me. In fact, me and my buddy Mike walked up on two bucks that were locked up fighting and never even saw us and got within 10 feet from us. Never even knew we were standing there. Didn't even smell us. It was wonderful. Bad timing for us, unfortunately. Orange vest for rifle. You can get these pretty cheap off of Amazon. I definitely recommend, if you're going to get an orange hunting vest, which you have to, if you're going to hunt public land with a rifle in Texas, get one off of Amazon and get something that's broken up like this. I mean, as you can see, I'm going to use this one again next year. Yeah, there's some blood droppings on there from when I cleaned old Big Boy, but other than that, it's good to go. They're pretty cheap, and like I said, they just fit over whatever you're wearing. And for the most part, if you're in a tree stand, the deer's probably not going to see it, even if it is all solid, especially if it's a box tree stand on private land or something of that nature. But if you're on public land, I'm always a big fan of more camouflaged you can be, the better. Because deer are very smart, smarter than I ever would have thought before I started hunting them, and it seems like they get smarter every time I go out. So, also use this in combination with this. Obviously, the last thing I did was go out for rifle. Not my first choices of hats, but it was cheap, and it was there at the time, so I bought it because it was cheap. That's I don't even know what it is. Okay, this is Real Tree Edge, so I guess it's not that cheap. Got a lovely little deer skull on it, but I wore this with this on top of it, and that was really nice. Seemed to keep the head warm up in the tree stand. I was wearing this with this and the vest when I shot my deer, and the bright orange had nothing to do with it. Didn't matter. Good to go there. T-shirts. All right. The more layers you can have, the better. All right. So I've got two different types. I've got a regular t-shirt, I've got a long sleeve, and then I've got one of these breathable Cabela shirts, and I'm telling you, this thing is awesome. For those real hot days when you're not, trying to do so much scent control, or you're just walking or what have you, and this is your bottom layer, you can strip down to it, and I mean, it's basically like not wearing a shirt. The wind gets through it. It'll dry out the sweat real quick if you get down to that layer, and you'll feel a lot more comfortable and be a lot better. Definitely worth the money buying a bunch of different layers and testing them out and just see what works for you. I don't use all of these layers every single time. Typically, I'll try to go out with, I'll have the moisture wicking on the bottom. I have a long sleeve over that, a regular t-shirt over that. If I know it's going to be colder, I may do a hoodie too. It just kind of depends. And like I said, this year I'm going to have a cover to go all over my neck because of the mosquitoes, and that way the only thing that's getting bit is my hands. I did buy really nice camo gloves, which are actually out in my work van, but I didn't end up using them. My hands never got cold enough, but it's been a mild winter in Southeast Texas. Good to have them, better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Telling you. So, anyhow, that's where we're going with that. Now, binoculars. I had some cheap Bushnells that I think I found at like Ross Dress for Less or something, but they were, they were like $30. I couldn't even tell you what the power were on them, but they actually weren't too horrible. I thought. I was like, hey, for $20, I'll give them a shot, and definitely better than the naked eye. But to put things in perspective, they just weren't that great. Vortex has these high definition. They're awesome. Okay, they're just, these Diamondback HDs are great. These ones are the 10 by 28s. They're not huge. Great little, this is an awesome little thing to have around your neck. It doesn't get in your way. You can shorten it to whatever length you want. I like mine kind of tight. Obviously with the head on it'd be hard to get on, but I like it kind of tight and close to my neck. That way it doesn't interfere with the deer call, which I'll get to in a minute. And the definition and clarity on these Vortex HD Diamondbacks is amazing. These binoculars are actually what made me buy the Vortex scope for my Weatherby, just simply because the clarity on these is just, it's outstanding. I actually tested them out in the particular sporting goods store I was at, and looked at a lady's face, and I swear I could see the pores on her face with it, and I was like, okay, yeah, I gotta have those. And for the price, you can't beat them. I know they were well under 200, I think. I'm pretty positive it was well under 200, but they're so worth it. You can see really clearly with them. They're good for, the rifle range. Me and my buddy, another buddy, Mike, I have Mike C, who hopefully we'll get to do a shooting demonstration with, not this weekend, but next. Went out with me, and he was able to spot my shots at 100 all day with these, and it worked really well. Rangefinder. So, you really need to have one of these. Not necessarily if you're rifle hunting, but you definitely need it for bow hunting for so many reasons. But even if you are just rifle hunting, this was one of the best things that I ever bought. It's very accurate. They're not that expensive. I think they're $160, somewhere in there. It's 1,100 yards, and it's super accurate. I've tested it in a bunch of different ways. It's what I use. It takes kind of a strange little battery, but I'm sure you can pick it up at Walmart very easily. I haven't had to yet, but it just works great. You hold it out, click the button. It's got a little circle in the middle. Tells you exactly what the yardage is, and you can just keep clicking all day long, and it'll do what it needs to do. It's just super easy to use. I love it. It's small. I will probably have it. It also comes with, I believe it came with a strap, and I will probably put it around my neck. If not, I'll just put it right here. For rifle, you don't really need it, or at least I didn't even have one when I got my deer last season. But I knew what my rifle was sighted in at, and I knew about where he was standing. And I was kind of waiting for him to get a little bit further out than what he was, because I knew it was hitting dead on at 100. And I think he might have been a little bit closer, a little further than that. It's hard to say. In the moment, it's really hard to say. But I know that one shot was all it took, and he went down great. But I definitely recommend having one of these. And if you're shooting bow, you know you need one. Flat out, period. Because 5 yards with a bow is the difference between a kill shot and a miss shot. Very easily you can wound an animal if you don't have one of these if you're hunting with a bow, which hopefully I'll get to do this next year. Well, let me phrase that. I'm going to do this next year, and hopefully I'll be successful. Grunt calls. This is just a basic Primos I bought right before the season started. Pretty simple to use. Now, when you're sitting there and you're trying to be quiet and all of that, you're going to have to really pay attention to what you're doing, because not the easiest thing to be quiet with. I'll sit there and I'll be real quiet. But you'd be surprised just how loud you can be and how close to a deer you can be somewhat loud without them hearing you. But then again, I think their smell is more important than the sound that you're making. Because I've made plenty of noise near deer and they didn't hear me as well as I thought they would have. But one thing that I do know works with this, me and my buddy Mike were out during the hunting season, and he was spotting for me, and he was out getting close, and he was ruffling and blowing this call, and they were grunting right back to him. We couldn't get Big Boy back over to us, but they were definitely grunting at him, and I was sitting there waiting for an ambush, and I think he was laid up with does, but he was definitely grunting back. And then a couple weeks later, there's a big monster buck that I don't believe has been taken in those woods yet. Me and Mike both saw him, and I think he was beating up the one I shot, believe it or not. We saw that about a month prior to that, to me shooting him. But I grunted at him, and he grunted back from across the field. I got him to come across the field, but it was private land that he was coming across. I couldn't get him onto public land with the grunter. He came about a quarter of the way through, and I think a hog or something spooked him. And I don't think it was me because the wind was right in my face. But I just couldn't get him to come all the way through. And I never could see his body, but I could see his rack. And for Southeast Texas, it was definitely a big rack. It looked like a rocking chair on top of his head. But I never could get him quite in. But, that's how the big bucks stay big. Rattling horns. I had a big set of rattling horns, drop horns that I found near my sister's house in Magnolia. And unfortunately, I lost those. Left them somewhere at a house and was not able to get them back. It's a long story. Don't really want to get into it. Ex-wives, you know how that is. The horns weren't worth it, people. They just weren't worth it. So anyway, went and got some of these at the store, and I was kind of skeptical because they're plastic. The things work. They really do. These are flex tone. They really do work. I've definitely called in a few bucks with this. Unfortunately, I've never been able to shoot one calling them in that way, but I've gotten them in pretty close. It was just the wrong time. I was never out in Southeast Texas during the peak of the rut, which during bow season I'm pretty sure I will be. I think the start of rifle season in the area that I'm hunting with, I think it's kind of towards the end of that first, good rut. I know they're still rutting then, but I think they're only rutting for the first week and a half of rifle season, and after the first couple days they're real skittish anyway, so that's what makes it kind of difficult. However, I shot mine way late into season. I shot mine, I want to say it was December 14th or 18th, one of the two. Can't remember the exact day that I shot him, but it was pretty late in the season, and unfortunately for me, and fortunately for me, I don't like to give up, and I just didn't want to give up. I spent every spare moment that I could afford to spend out in the woods until I got them. Because I knew where they were. I knew everything I needed to know. I just couldn't get myself in the right place at the right time. So, this is what I picked out for bow season this year. I haven't hunted bow for a while, and it'd be nice to get back into it. Archery, bow, whatever you want to say. Please don't write me in and correct me, people. I'm just sitting here shooting the bull, basically. Alright, got me a PSE. The reason I got a PSE is my, old friend of mine, it was a woman, she had a PSE, and I watched her drop a whitetail at 30 yards, clean and clear through both lungs. She never had a problem with it. They shoot great. They break over well. As long as you get a good release with them and get good arrows, you're good to go. I went with just some, regular old hunter grain broadheads, and I'll get to that when I go actually through everything with the bow. I'm not going to do a review on it today. I have shot it a few times. Shoots great. Don't have it quite perfectly dialed in yet. When I do, I'll put on a shooting display, and I will do a review on it. But until I've shot it and have that on camera, have it on camera, me shooting it on camera, I will not do a review on it. But that will be coming very shortly. Got my son this weekend, so it's probably going to have to wait a little while, but I will definitely get that on camera soon, and we'll go from there. Now, one of the most important tools that people don't know about or forget, most good hunters do know about it, especially bow hunters, some type of wind detector. Alright, this one's called Dead Downwind Wind Detector. You can get them off Amazon or most stores, although for some reason When I went to sporting goods stores around here in Texas, I didn't find it as often as I would find it in other places, it seems like. I don't know, it was weird. But I've lived in a lot of places, who knows. Woo, look at that. This straight tells you your wind direction, and it works great. You just shake it up a little bit, give it a poof, and it tells you exactly which way the wind's traveling. Right now, even in this stale room, it's still telling me that it's going that way, probably because of the return from the air conditioner. So it's very, very useful. Why is it useful? I smoke cigarettes. It's a horrible habit. I know people. I'd love to quit. I will eventually one day, hopefully. And it's not that conducive to bow hunting at all, especially if you're going to spot and stalk. Unfortunately, the woods that I'm hunting in, spot and stalk, you can do it, but it's so stinking difficult. I mean, I will one day, I'm sure, just because I spend so much time in the woods and walking and stuff, and I've had deer jump up on me and all sorts of nature, or all sorts of things of that nature. But, you know, you never know what can happen in the woods. You just really never know. If you're hunting the thick brush in southeast Texas and you're not sitting in a stand, I definitely recommend, camo up, use this stuff. Because if you're walking into an area expecting to see deer and the wind's on your back, you're not going to see any. And if you do, they're going to get scared and run off, and the only thing you're going to see is that little white flag waving at you like, see ya, I'm out, and then it's over, That's the end of your day. Another mistake don't make, don't put a trail cam anywhere you see a whole lot of sign of activity. If you see a whole bunch of different sized buck tracks and busted up limbs and torn up ground and you can see scrapes here, there, and yonder and everything, don't put a deer trail cam anywhere near that area and don't walk over it ever again. If you want to hunt it, that's fine. Okay, that absolutely fine, but stay as far away from it as you can while still making a shot, because I made the mistake of going into a really beautiful area like that and I just totally ruined it. Put a camera in it and just totally blew that spot out. Probably another reason it took me so long to get a deer this year. Now, I had one deer, I don't know if it's the one I shot or not. Have no idea because I never could get a really good look at him, but he was real good about crossing the road when you had your head turned. Did it to me 3 times this year. And he was smart. He would do it in the wind and he would do it when planes were flying over, and I have a feeling it was that real big boy, but I'm not positive on it. So I thought I'd wise up on it. So I got me the good old ghillie suit, okay? And as you can tell, it's definitely been used. There's some leaves and pine needles all through it. I got the regular sized one, and I'm kind of a short guy. I kind of wish I would have got a slightly smaller one, although I am going to trim the legs because they just drag the ground and pick up everything on the ground. You don't have to worry about picking up stuff from your surroundings and putting it in this to try to blend in. It's going to pick it up for you, trust me. And if it's hot, I definitely recommend not wearing many layers underneath it because it's plenty warm enough. It's made out of like all yarn. But definitely worth the money and worth the buy, especially when I'm going to be bow hunting this year. I cannot wait, to wear it some more. Hopefully it won't be too hot while I'm doing it, but that time of year I'm sure it will be, and this is southeast Texas. It's not like it gets cold. Now, when you get the ghillie suit, or at least this one that I got, I think I had the bag for it. Oh, it's over there. Give me 1 second, people. I apologize. I'm only human. Give me a break. Alright. This one is Ghost Ghillie Woodland Camo. And it worked out pretty well. It has a rifle wrap on it, so you can wrap your gun with it, so you can blend that in and all of that. And yeah, they're definitely not going to see you laying on the ground, but if they smell you, you can be wearing whatever you want, and it doesn't matter. Up in a tree, they're less likely to smell you. The one I shot, he was probably dead behind me before he ever smelled me, because the wind was in my face. He went right around behind me, and then when he got behind me, that's when he sped up because he smelled me. But I was about, 25, 30 feet in the tree, guessing. Totally guessing. It could have been 20 for all I know. And then I waited for him to get further out, and I was going to stop him, but luckily for me, he stopped right where I wanted him to. Didn't have to.